Last week on the Jockey podcast, Mr. Fidler reminisced about his childhood during the Great Depression. It became evident to me through our discussion that one's childhood experience is directly linked to the times they were raised in. For Mr. Fidler, growing up during a time when many had little, imagination was crucial and didn't cost a thing. He played outdoors, handcrafted toys from miscellaneous pieces he found with friends, and even got into a little bit of mischief here and there. For young kids today, their experience is vastly different. They are digital natives who spend more time in virtual worlds than they do outside getting their hands dirty. In 2016, we live in an I, me, mine generation, where everyone expects what they want when they want it. This was not the case in Mr. Fidler's day. Some children had to make sacrifices to support their families. In today's episode, Mr. Fidler and I will talk about what it was like to put play aside and get to work. I understand that your father didn't have steady work after the stock market crashed. Can you tell me a little bit about how your mother tried to support the family?
Yeah, the first thing I think she did, she got a job selling smartphone corsets. And she had to go around visiting people, show them the material, try it on them, and try to take orders like that. But she had to walk around to visit all these different people. And after that, she also made donuts, especially around Lenten time and Fourth time. And she'd make the donuts, and she'd take orders with friends and neighbors. And then when the donuts were ready, I'd deliver them in big bags.
So you helped her with that?
Oh, yeah.
And did you tell me that she was also doing some laundry as well?
Yeah, there were people, usually richer people that I know one of the customers lived on Greenfield, and another man, he lived at the railroad station, but they delivered their laundry to our house, and my mother would wash it, iron it, starch it if it needed it, and have it all ready when they come to pick it up. And she made money that way.
Wow.
And then at Easter time, she also made Easter eggs. And then there was always friends and neighbors that were interested in that. And I was the one that always delivered it.
Now, that was a pretty common practice back then for people in neighborhoods to prepare different items and sell them to neighbors?
Yeah. And friends from church and people like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I know you are a pretty enterprising young man. What sort of jobs did you create for yourself during this time?
Well, first of all, my brother started. We realized that on weekends there were big baseball teams that would play at Bear Park, and they'd draw a pretty good crowd of people. And my brother decided he learned how to make root beer. He had to get certain stuff to mix it up and bottle it, and then had to sit to
Carbonate.
Yeah, something like that.
Get fizzy.
And then I'd help him with my wagon. We'd take the bottles of root beer out to Bear Park on Saturday and sell it to the people that were watching the baseball team.
How much did you sell it for?
Well, I think it was about a nickel a bottle. But then later on, my brother couldn't always do it. So I took over the business and started making lemonade, and had to buy the lemons and all the equipment, and my mother helped me get everything ready, squeeze in there all that stuff and put it in a big container. And I went with my wagon with all this lemonade in and glasses. And that I sold 3 cents a glass, 2 for a nickel.
Oh my goodness!
And then I had a big pot there where the glasses I put in to clean a little bit
and reserve.
Did that again. And that worked pretty good.
Wow, it sounds like your wagon was a great investment.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then I also used to on Tuesday mornings I'd always walk over to my Aunt Lily's house and go with her to market. And I noticed that when we got there early, there were young boys standing there with their wagons, waiting for the little old ladies coming out and offering to carry their bags in the wagon for a price. And when I saw that, I told Nevin Miller about it, and he said, well, let us do it. And pretty soon, we were doing, and we went there earlier than the other guys, so that we were moving before they got there, and they were a little bit unhappy about that. But we did that for a while. We'd be there with our wagons, and the little ladies come out. We'd haul the stuff to the house.
Oh wow! You had dollar signs in your eyes when you saw them come out. Well, it sounds like your brother Ray had a pretty big influence on you. What role did he have in the family during this time?
Well, he was fortunate enough to get a job at Mulder's drugstore, which was up at 9th and Penn. And he'd have to ride his bicycle from our house after school, and he'd get up there and work till 11 o'clock at night. And first he did a lot of just cleaning around and stuff like that. But later he was working on the counter. They gave him a name, Soda Jerk.
Oh, he was a soda jerk.
Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what it means to be a soda jerk?
Well, he worked behind there mixing up the different sodas and things like that, waiting on the customers.
So so for many people today, we know of a vanilla Coke that comes in a can.
Yeah.
Now, would he mix that with real vanilla extract back?
Yeah, that's just what he was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
He probably made a pretty good cherry Coke.
And he did that for a number of years. In fact, while he was working there, it was over in 1941 when they had the New York Fair.
The World's Fair.
World's Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Mulder went to the fair, and he realized how nice it was. So he came back and he told them, always all of his employees, he'd pay for them to go to see the fair.
Wow. And
so my brother got to see the fair, and he took me with him. So
what was that like?
Oh, that was really something.
What?
I remember where they had one stand. It was the Future House, I think it was the name. But it had pictures of big, tall buildings, roadways, highways with big bridges and all that stuff that it didn't have now. And now we have them.
Wow.
Yeah. That was really interesting.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the World's Fair? Now, for a lot of people today, you think of a fair as roller coaster rides and Ferris wheels. It wasn't quite like that.
Oh, no. No, they had people, different countries over there even. And everything was about the future.
And science?
Mostly, yeah, science and stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds so interesting.
Yeah, I think they had some of the car companies with new cars there, which nobody had seen yet, what they're going to be like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really fun. Really something. And,
well, that's not the only very cool thing that you had the chance to do. What about what your job as a paper boy helped you achieve?
well, even before that, I had a magazine route.
Ah.
And I was only about 13 or 14. And fortunately, I was going to junior high, and on Tuesdays, we would get out early, about 2:30, and I would rush home, and my magazines that I was supposed to deliver were at my house, and I'd load up with 2 bags of newspapers and put them around my neck and walked all the way in town. Most of my customers were in town, some of the big stores, and till I ended up, I was at the other end of Reading, and by that time, if the weather was nice, I still walked home, but if I was too tired or it was pouring down rain, I'd take the trolley for 7 cents.
Man, that probably cut into your earnings a little bit.
Yeah. But then after that, I got a newspaper route. Of course, all these jobs that I kept, my brother's usually finding them.
Oh.
And he found me this paper route. It was over in Glenside. And it was a big paper route, 163 papers.
Wow.
And 100 of the customers covered. I picked up the papers at the top of the Brill, that started at Glenside, and there were 4 blocks in a row that went from there up to the city limits. And I'd walk 4 blocks delivering the papers, and then turning the corner and going back to the next street and walk 4 blocks back. And I got rid of 100 papers there. And then there was a new building section called Greenmont. And I had customers there. And then after that, there were 32 customers out in Greenfields, which was out in the country, from the city limits all the way up to the airport. And for those 32 papers, I had to ride my bicycle 10 miles every day of the year.
But you were walking that before you had the bicycle, right?
Yeah.
And how did you get the bike?
My brother bought it, and then I paid him back later. And I had a big bag. I had a basket in the front of my handlebars where I could put my bag of papers, and I also had a bag hanging on the side of the car where I could put some in there. And since I did it every day of the year, that meant I did it during the winter when it got dark early, and so most of that riding the bicycle in the 10 mile was in the dark. And I eventually got a light put on my bicycle with a generator that rubbed along the tire to generate electricity for the light.
So as you pedaled, you generated your own electricity for the light.
When I stopped, the lights went.
Oh, it didn't store any of that energy?
No.
Wow, 10 miles a day.
That kept me in shape.
Oh, wow. Well, something really interesting happened to you with this paper route. Was there a contest?
Yeah, they had a big contest, and it said that the 5 that got the most customers would get a 2-week trip to Havana, Cuba. And fortunately, I was lucky about that time. Right on my route, they were building a bunch of buildings by the government.
For low-income housing.
For low-income housing. And as they finished them and people moved in, I was another customer. And I was one of the 5 highest ones.
So you got to go to Havana, Cuba.
And I got to go to Havana, Cuba.
And this was in what, 1940?
Yeah, 41, I think it was. And
can you tell me a little bit about what that trip was like?
Yeah, well, one thing I don't want to forget, when I had too many customers, I not only won the trip to Cuba, I also run a free trip to the World's Fair. And so, since my brother went to the World's Fair and took me along, I gave him that trip. He could go to the World's Fair again alone. And
Wow.
I went to Cuba.
Wow.
And when we went to Cuba, there was 5 boys, and the manager and his wife and daughter, and a couple fellows that was in charge of the newspaper boys, and a nurse. So we had 2 cars full, and we drove all the way down to Florida. On the way down, we stopped at Mount Vernon.
Oh.
And went through there. And then when we got down to, I think it was South Carolina, we stopped at a small motel. And I think they were just cabins. And we stayed there. And then we got down to Florida. I got a drink at the Fountain of Youth.
Oh, and
then we got a ship and took that to Havana, Cuba. And this was right around 4th of July. And so we were invited to march in their parade.
in Havana.
In Havana. And after the parade, we went to the Capitol and shook hands with President Batista.
Wow.
Wow.
So this is in pre-communist Cuba with President Batista before Castro came into power.
Yeah.
That's an incredible story.
And we also visited a lot of places while we were there. We visited one place where they had made the cigars.
Oh.
And we went in there, and they had all these ladies lined up on long tables, rolling these cigars up.
So it was women who were doing that?
Yeah. And they had a man standing on a bench up in front of them, reading love stories to them while they were doing that.
Wow.
Wow. And then we also went through the, I guess it was a wine place, and seeing how that was, and they were giving all the adults tastes, but we didn't get to taste them.
And I'm sure you didn't taste the cigars either.
No. But it's pretty interesting on that trip.
Wow. And you don't happen to have a photo of you shaking hands with President Batista, do you?
No, I don't, but I do have a photo of the group of us while we were in Cuba, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paper route through high school, or did you switch gears a little bit?
No, it was just a paper route until my father died. And then that's when I got the job at the Ring Times. And then I got drafted. And I quit that and went in the Navy.
What work did you do at the Reading Times?
I was running, they had a conveyor where all the papers went through. And not everybody could do it. It went through pretty fast. And each 50 papers, one of them would be turned. And you had to be ready when that came by, grab those 50, put them on a table, and you had to keep grabbing them and pound them on there. And then after you had a bunch of them, then you had to take each 50 and cover them up and tie the rope. And that's the way they sent them out in the truck. Mm-hmm. And not everybody could do that, but I was pretty fast with it, so I did that most of the time.
And then you got a second little part of your job there too, right?
Yeah, then later, while I was there in the beginning, I became a friend with one of the fellows, and we usually worked from 1 in the morning to about 3 in the morning. And then this friend of mine, he used to go upstairs, and they had a switchboard up there for telephones, and he was on that till 6 o'clock in the morning. And later on, he quit the job, and I took it over, and then I was working till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Did you like working on the switchboard?
Yeah, it was one of those switchboards where
you pull out the cord.
Pull out the cord, and when you get a phone call, you plug it in a certain place. And,
that sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, but you had to make sure you didn't screw it up.
High pressure job. And that was your last job before something pretty big happened to you.
Yes, it was. Real big.
And what was that big moment?
Getting drafted.
For World War II.
Yep. I turned 18, and as soon as I turned 18, a few days later, I got a letter saying to report to Allentown for your draft.
And folks, that's where we leave you until our next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Ping Jockey podcast. Signing off, Marley and Mr. Fidler.